People in power, whether red or blue, they could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? We got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? We got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Good evening, everyone. It is that time again. It is time for late night coffee talk. I am home. I am where I can do a live stream, and that makes me very happy. So, and hopefully that will get some of you off my back that have been sending me all of those emails and messages. So we're here, and it's a good thing because I don't know that we're going to be able to do this next week. I mean, it's another pretty big travel week. Lots of speaking engagements. We'll get to that here in a minute. Let's get this thing kicked off right. For those of you just joining us for the first time, my name is Daniel Miller, and this is, I'm president of the Texas Nationalist Movement. This is Late Night Coffee Talk. This is the time where in typically the middle of the week, I take a break, grab yet another cup of coffee, fire up the live stream, and we have a discussion, right? Tell you what's on my mind, give you updates on Texas and things that are going on in the world that are related to Texas independence, and I answer your questions. I mean, I make myself available pretty much on a weekly basis. Not always, right? Because sometimes I am traveling. But pretty much on a weekly basis to answer your questions, right? I mean, it is, call me the Archbishop of Banterbury if you would like. But anyway, your questions are going to take up a considerable amount of time tonight, I hope. So let me tell you how you can submit your questions for tonight. Oh, yeah. See, this is what happens when I don't do this. There we go. Because then I don't have the thing right here at the bottom to tell you. You can email your questions here. Oh, which way are we going? Up this way, right? You can email your questions there, or if you're watching on either of the YouTube channels, drop your questions in chat. They show up over here, and I'll be able to see them. And if you're, I think it works on Facebook as well, right? So if you're watching on any of the Facebook pages, any of the Facebook outlets, drop your questions in the comments, and we will sift through, and we'll take some of the cooler ones, right? Some of them, like if you've got a question about some sort of basic thing about Texas, I would just encourage you to go to texitnow.org, or that's texitnow.org, where we have answers to the most asked questions about Texas, military, Social Security. I mean, everything that you would want to know about sort of the Texas thing. But sometimes you guys send me questions that are related to Texas that are a little bit deeper dive, and I love to take those. And look, there will be plenty of people in chat that'll be more than happy to direct you to the resources that will get you the answers that you need. All right, boy, we have got a fun one tonight. You guys, this is what happens when I'm stacked up for a week or so and didn't get to do this, so I've got a lot. And a little bit of a recap. So last week, two things were extremely interesting. Number one, I got to go to Seguin and speak to a Republican women's club there in Seguin, and watched in amazement as it looked like the vast majority of the room went from being kind of dead neutral to where do I sign up? How do I get involved? Why don't we have a local group in Seguin? And ready to rock and roll. So, I mean, you gotta love experiences like that where you roll into a town. And I will tell you, I have been to Seguin many times, but that was the first time we came as invited to present to any of the civic organizations or political organizations there. And it was just a nice time had by all. And so I want to send a special thank you to Julie for hooking that up for us. Thank you so much. And looking forward to doing some big things there in Guadalupe County. It's going to be fantastic. Additionally, Nate Smith, our executive director, and I got to participate virtually in an academic conference hosted by a university in France on the issues of independence and sovereignty. And it was phenomenal. There's an article about it on the website, so I won't go into all the details about it. But I think it was interesting to note that there were only, out of everyone who was invited, everyone were academics except for three of us. One was Robert Byrd from the Alaskan Independence Party, Bob, as he likes to be called. And he's the chairman of the Alaskan Independence Party, and it was myself and Nate Smith, right? Only three what they call practitioners invited, and two of them were about Texas, and I think it's very telling that Texas was a bit belle of the ball, right? Those academics were amazed, astonished. I think they probably did not know exactly what to expect. I think Nate and I will probably get our transcripts together for my remarks and get them published. And I do believe they're going to put together a journal from the conference paper. So a big thank you to Dr. Auclair there at the Catholic University of, Vendée. That's it. Vendée. Yeah, see, I had to remember how to pronounce it. But anyway, thank you so much for the opportunity to present, and definitely looking forward to it. And we may be having some news in regard to that sort of academic front here pretty soon for you guys. So definitely stay tuned to that. By the way, have you guys noticed some different things like this? Well, there are going to be some, and I've been teasing this for a while, there are going to be some changes and some additions to how we handle some of this related to Coffee Talk. I can tell you that literally right above my head, there is something happening that we will be unveiling to you guys very shortly. And I hope you all appreciate what we're getting ready to do as we get ready to elevate and really amplify the Texas conversation quite a bit. So, bear with me. Things are going to start looking a little different here. This bothers me. I don't know about y'all. I think I'm going to go to a desk mic again. This I don't like. Anyway, so let's get down to what everyone wants to talk about. By the way, let me take a look at the comments over here and see who all we got. Okay, you know what? I'll actually break protocol and take a question now, right? So here's one from John. John says, what happens if post-independence Texas is not internationally recognized, as was the case the first time? American allies likely wouldn't. Well, your premise is faulty because, indeed, Texas was internationally recognized. As a matter of fact, in the members section on the website, we have a library of documents, including the text of all of the treaties that were signed by the Republic of Texas of international recognition between Texas and other self-governing independent nations, including France and including the United States and including the Hanseatic League, which eventually became Germany, the Netherlands. I mean, it's all in there, right? So we have the text of all those. But to your point and to your question about whether or not other nations would recognize us internationally, I think it's a good question. I do not have a crystal ball, but international recognition. It's funny because that was actually something that was talked about in some of the academic papers at that conference that we participated in. And I know there has been some academic discussion about international recognition, but you have to ask yourself, what is international recognition? Is it the ability to, is it like UN membership? Is it, what does that mean, right? Because international recognition is pretty broad of a term and represents a bit of a moving target. Take like Taiwan, for example. There are plenty of places that do not recognize the independent status of Taiwan, but have absolutely no qualms about trading with Taiwan and putting, microchips that were manufactured in Taiwan in products or importing products from Taiwan. And so, is that international recognition that they're being traded with, right? So international recognition is not it's a catch-all term that in and of itself has almost no meaning. But, does that mean diplomatic relations, right? Because that there is a conversation to be had there. So when you say that, or ask about international recognition, understand that encompasses a lot of different things that can happen in those relationships. And when you have, a couple of hundred bites at the apple, you're going to have probably varying relationships with all those people. But it's also one of the reasons that we have to do what we're doing the right way. There is a path forward for us to do this in the way that we're doing it so that the broadest type of international recognition is available to us, or the broadest opportunities for international recognition across a whole scope of issues is available on the other side of Texas. But again, it goes down to process. We have to do this right. I know some people get upset about that there's a certain way that we have to do it. But number one, we want to win. And number two, we want to be in the catbird seat throughout the entire process. And we want to come out in a much better position on the other end of this than we are right now. We don't want a setback. This goes back to something Dr. Quartrip was talking about on his trip here, where he talked about that there's this kind of rule of thumb that generally nations that get their independence take a 10% hit in GDP right off the bat. Right. So that's for sort of like the knee jerk things. Now, that's not every one of them. Right. And it all varies depending on how well they were doing beforehand. But in every case, every one of them reclaimed that lost GDP within 10 years. But, you can shortcut that. Right. You can compress that down or not experience it because of the process that you follow. It is always fun to me to see some armchair quarterbacks out there who decide that, we have to do this has to be done so fast, and if you don't, blah blah blah, and they don't ever do anything but run their mouth because they don't understand. So that's one of the reasons that we're here, is to help people understand these things and understand that there is a strategy and a process that has to be followed, and you keep hacking away at it until you cross the finish line. That's just what you have to do. Okay. So anyway, John, hey, thank you for that question. I always love talking about those things. Wow. We have got, boy, this is going to be a good one for y'all tonight. You're going to love this. So if you recall, the last time that we were together, we had a discussion about when we posted the article many moons ago about should Texas supporters sue Texan opposers who accuse us of committing treason and sedition. And we posted that, I think, almost a year ago, well over a year ago, but it's been part of the discussion that we've been having for many, many years now. And as many of you may remember, actually, the first lawsuit was filed about that very thing on April the 19th, where Morgan McComb sued State Representative Jeff Leach for saying that she was guilty of treason and sedition for supporting Texas, right? And if you don't know anything about that, the article's on the website. And some of you, I'm sure, probably remember the video where Jeff Leach was getting served while he was chairing his committee meeting.
Is that correct?
I'm actually here as Casey Littlejohn with National Process Service, Jeff Leach. I have a citation here for you out of Parker County. You have 20 days from today to contact Parker County Clerk's office.
Yeah, so he was sued, right, in his committee hearing. And of course, after he was sued, he threw a little temper tantrum and he went on a rant. And,
just for the record, as chairman of the committee, I'd at least like to clear up the record. I've been serving now for 6 terms and have never experienced personally or for any other House member what just happened in our committee room.
So he's wounded. Somebody had the audacity to serve him a lawsuit at work. Right now, let's remember that any of us out here could be sued and served at our home, on our job. It doesn't matter, right? It does not matter. And, nothing was interrupted, right? The process server signed up to testify neutral on a bill, got up there when he's called to testify, boom. I mean, so it was a regular part of the thing, right? He didn't go up there and get all disruptive and be like, yeah, you shut up, you've been served, nothing like that. I mean, follow the trying to follow the process, right? And say, look, we're just going to fold this in here so as to be as less disruptive as possible. But par for the course, Jeff Leach, the man who decides to try to kick on Texas supporters any chance he gets when, frankly, none of us ever give a second thought about him. And the fact that his suit pants are so tight, he looks like he goes to work wearing leotards. But, you know, we have a tendency not to mess with him. We know he doesn't support letting us vote. We know he doesn't give two craps about your rights under Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. He's proven that he is a politician and not a statesman, and that he does not believe that rights come from God. He believes they come, obviously, from government. And frankly, he probably acts and thinks like he is a deity of some type. Well, that was confirmed, right, this week. As a matter of fact, it was confirmed because out of the blue, what do I get? Someone sends me a screenshot of this tweet that happened, and it says, Schofield, right, one of the state reps, just amended House Bill 3474 to prevent legislators and staff from being served during session, aka the Leach Amendment. So my curiosity obviously was piqued. What amendment, right? Where did this come from? I mean, we know where it came from, but I mean, how did this go down? So the day ended, looked at the video, and lo and behold, as Jeff Leach was laying out his bill, which the bill that they mentioned, 3474, is a pretty innocuous bill. You're going to see bills like that every session, where they pass a bill, they create a bill that essentially creates new courts, right? So as case logs get larger, dockets get bigger, they have to open up more courts to process the cases. And so they will have a bill, and then they have an amendment, which is an omnibus amendment, which takes into consideration all of those things and puts them in one. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I'm sure that it was a big surprise to Jeff Leach. Not really. All of a sudden, somebody has an amendment to the amendment.
Following amendment to the amendment, the clerk read the amendment.
Amendment by Schofield.
The chair recognizes Mr. Schofield to explain the amendment to the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, members, this amendment would prevent the interruption of legislative proceedings for the service of process, and I believe it is acceptable to the author.
Mr. Schofield says that amendment, that it is acceptable to the author. The objection to the adoption amendment. The chair hears none. The amendment is adopted.
I'm sure it was not objectionable to the author. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was not. I mean, talk about just an absolute baby. So literally, let me just kind of run this through. Take it from start to finish. Reader's Digest version, and if you don't know what the Reader's Digest version is, you are way too young, okay? So, for years, we say that it is wrong for opponents of Texas to accuse Texas supporters of treason and sedition because those are crimes. Treason is punishable by death, sedition by prison time, right? And what we do does not fit those definitions. They are defined in law. Treason is defined in the Constitution. Sedition is defined in federal law, right? So they are defined crimes. And we say you shouldn't do it, right? Don't do it. We're getting sick of it. And our people are not going to take this crap anymore. We're going to get enough of it, and then we're not going to take it anymore. Last year, we published an article positing the question, should Texas supporters sue opposers who accuse us of treason and sedition, and lay out in that article why what they do is wrong, why it is considered defamation per se, aka because it's an accusation of a crime, damages are automatic. Damages are assumed. You don't have to prove financial loss. Fast forward to this year, Texas bill gets filed. Jeff Leach, true to form, gets on Twitter and starts his normal noxious crap, right? Before the bill was even filed, right? He decides he's going to come after us just for no reason. right? Just out of the blue, he starts trying to hammer us on social media. Nobody jerked his chain, told him to come out and do anything, right? Nobody opened the closet, said, Jeff, come out. Nobody did that. No, what happened was he started picking. And what our people did was just respond to him. Again, dismiss him as the juvenile that he is. And then, of course, he got his buddies in there, Representative Hairline and Representative Bobby Hill from King of the Hill. And finally, they decided to go away. Jeff Leach just cannot let well enough alone. And so the Texas bill gets filed, and he goes on this unhinged rant again. And what does he do? He lets loose the words that we have been warning people to stop using for a long time. And some people and some of the media have said, oh, this lawsuit, thought you guys were proponents of freedom of speech. You're suing Facebook over freedom of speech. But there's a difference here. And that is that defamation has never been protected speech. So all of you armchair quarterbacks, legal scholars in the media, get your crap straight. Defamation has never been protected speech. Never. It's never been protected speech. And because of that, Jeff Leach got sued. And if he calls other people that, he may get other ones. Well, maybe he won't get sued. Now, maybe he won't get served in his committee hearing. But I'm telling you, our people are tired of it. And they're going to pick their targets. Look, I already know of probably at least a dozen other people that are having the conversation right now about whether or not they should file a lawsuit on somebody over this very thing. So you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And look, here's the deal. The court may be stacked against our people, but they don't care. They just want it to be known that advocating for the independence of your country, your state, is not treason and is not sedition. It's not. It's not a crime. And in fact, the accusation of such is meant to stifle political speech that is protected, by the way. Speech that is protected. It's meant to stifle it. And the fact that it comes from the mouth of a legislator or any of these other officials has a terrible chilling effect on the ability of people like us to go out there and advocate. Now, I don't care what they call me, right? I couldn't possibly care less because they call me something. They tell me I'm guilty of treason. They tell me, I don't care. I'll put them in their little box. I'll push them back in the closet, shut the door, and lock it, right? But our people are just not going to put up with it anymore. So Jeff Leach gets served. And then what does he do? After his little tantrum and his wah-wah and all that, what does he do? He has one of his buddies amend one of the bills that, frankly, this wasn't germane, right? Somebody could have point of ordered it, but it came out of nowhere. It was a floor amendment, right? Nobody saw it coming. But he has one of his buddies file an amendment to this amendment to say, well, wait a minute. Although you, the peon class, can be served wherever you may be found, no matter what you're doing, right? If you're in the deli at work slicing meat, or you're working in a refinery, or you're out on an oil lease, right? Or you're working in your office, or you're sitting on the toilet, they can walk up, you've been served. You, the peons, can be served anywhere. But not these guys. Not these guys. He wasn't on the floor of the House. They weren't in the middle of some legislative debate, and he was on. That wasn't what happened at all. He just happened to be in a committee room. And as we've seen by the fact they can introduce floor amendments and do quite often, and you have things that don't even really seem to go through a committee hearing, it's not like anyone's taking that very seriously anyway, right? So the political class gets to sit above and tell us, hey, you could be served wherever you are, But we as the political class, we're somehow set above and apart. And I think it sends a pretty clear message. I think it sends a pretty clear message as to how they view us. And I say they in a broad sense. I'm sure that the vast majority of those people there in the House probably didn't even realize what was going on. Just some regular old average bill that comes by every session. All of a sudden, this amendment that's acceptable to the author, and it just, I mean, you literally saw how fast that went. You saw how quickly that went. And just like that, you're very different than they are. They get to be whoever they are, and you get to be one of the not chosen of the political class. It's pretty crazy. But, you know, this is what we have been saying for a very long time. You know, we had a very good shot at getting a hearing on our legislation. You called, you did everything just like I said 2 weeks ago. You're doing everything right. But yet again, here we are. And so I'm going to tell you this, and I want you to let it sink in. If you want better representation, you got to have better representatives. Every election cycle counts. If you have someone representing you that's in the political class that believes that they are better than you, then you are not being represented appropriately. So, you know, will this bill pass? Who knows? It'll go from there. It'll kick over to the Senate. You know, we'll see what happens in the Senate. Maybe what we'll do is we'll leverage some potential people in the Senate to see if they won't strike that amendment from the bill. I mean, wouldn't that be hilarious? Push the court's bill to conference committee. That would be hilarious. Anyway, wow. All right. So, you know, stay tuned. We'll see what happens with that. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, we'll get to those. By the way, get your questions in, right? If you've got questions for tonight, drop them in the chat there in the YouTube channels or on the Facebook pages in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to get to them. I see some over here in the queue, and fill it up. Draw me some questions. Ask me something. Let's get random, because this will only last as long as I have something to talk about and as long as I have decent questions to answer, because I got to get back to work. I'm a busy boy. All right. So the other thing that I obviously got pounded about over the last week was this lovely article hit from USA Today. Fact check. SCOTUS ruling, history, contradict claim Texas has absolute legal right to secede. Wow. So that article dropped on the 25th of April. And of course, as you could imagine, my inbox blew up from people going, oh, look, it's the same crap they always do. And indeed, it was, right? It's the same thing. If you look at the article, you look at the sources, and we talk about this actually in an article on our website, right? If you go to tnm.me, you can read about it. But they reached out to us, and I responded back with a pretty lengthy response. And they printed pretty much none of it. They took none of it into account, none whatsoever, nor did any of the people they allegedly interviewed were they challenged with any of the facts that were presented in our response to USA Today. So it was obvious they came in with an idea or a slant, but interestingly enough, there were two things about it that I think were quite interesting. And by the way, I'm not going to go dissect that article. We've done it about 1 million times before, and if you want the Cliff's Notes, here they are. It's the same crap they always say, unconstitutional, Texas versus White, and the Civil War. Right. And it's all in response to a video of ours that blew up on social media, that's still blowing up on social media, saying that we have an absolute right to become a self-governing independent nation if we want to. It's there. It's in Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. It lists it as an inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish our government in such manner as they may think expedient. And we believe inalienable is God, right? Those rights come from God and not government, and they believe that government is God. So there is the impasse, and that will forevermore be the impasse, just so you understand. But they don't have a legal leg to stand on, nor do they have a moral leg to stand on, nor do they have a political argument to stand on. It's a political question, not a judicial question. So, obviously, I'm not going to dissect that article. I just started because those things rile me up. But here is the thing that I think was quite interesting. So if you look at their sources, they're all circular references, right? By and large, all of them refer to one another in the articles. So several of them refer to the Texas Tribune article. The Texas Tribune article refers to several of those things, including that ridiculous blog from 2010 from a alleged memo from Scalia. I mean, it's all the same crap. It's just all the same stuff over and over. And we destroy it every time. But here's the suspicious thing. So if you don't know this, back at the tail end of last year, we filed suit against Meta, parent company of Facebook, over banning links to the Texit section of our website. And, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win that. Now, it's going to take a long time, but I think we're going to win that based off the reading of the law and the fact that Meta wanted to start making a deal, some big deal out of Texas versus White, right? They started interjecting some of those things into it, and we're like, hey, I'm your Huckleberry. If you want to go down this road and we want to relitigate Texas versus White all the way to the Supreme Court, totally fine with it. Because it's our contention that Texas versus White could not withstand legal scrutiny today at all, given, Jacobson v. Massachusetts or Missouri v. Holland or, and all the subsequent actions. I don't think it could withstand scrutiny. And I'm pretty sure they know that, but, let's throw some darts at the board, see what sticks, right? But what is interesting about this is that as soon as that article was posted, we started seeing this on videos and posts, right? This particular video. Sure enough, there it is. They've started adding a notice to the post. Independent fact checker said it was false. So I'm guessing USA Today was their independent fact checker, right? Because just so you understand, we have never gotten a fact check warning on any post that we have ever made. It's only now that we have sued them that USA Today posts their story and then Facebook slaps a warning on it. Oh, it's bogus. It's full of false information that, Texans have rights and things of that nature, right? But interestingly enough, if you dig down to the bottom of the USA Today story, you see this little tidbit. Our fact check work is supported in part by a grant from Facebook. Wow. Okay. Very clever, Facebook. We're suing you for blocking posts about Texas saying we're dangerous or harmful. So now, using your money that you paid them, I'm sure you have absolutely no editorial control over that whatsoever. USA Today, using your money, in part, says the same crap we've always heard, regurgitating the same old. And by the way, it's not like this is the first time USA Today has ever done a story on us. Not the first time any of those media outlets have done a story on us. So this is not new, but all of a sudden now, fact check, it's false. Well, it's not false. You may disagree with it. We believe it's true. We're not the only ones who believe it's true. In fact, it's an issue under contention. As a matter of fact, 60% of Texas voters believe it's true. 66% of likely Texas voters believe it's true. That we have an absolute right to withdraw if we want to. I mean, that's just the way it is. So you can't even say that it's in contention. You just say it's false, which is a lie in and of itself. your label of false is in and of itself false. And magically, you get to slap a fact check warning on our crap on Facebook. Well, wait a minute. I'm just pointing that out because I am going to tell you that if you watch the Facebook suit closely, right, as it begins to unfold, you may or may not see this again. You may or may not see this again. It could make it could make a cameo. Just saying. I can't say that for sure, but I'm just saying that it might. And, irony of ironies, here I am. We're literally live streaming on Facebook and, not saying anything different. What are they going to do? Kick us off? Oh, no. So, look, I'm always down. Look, if we want to amend our filings and complaints and everything else, I'm down, because we said at one point that we were no longer going to put up with this crap, and we're not, right? Whether it's, folks like y'all out there that are going to sue the crap out of these people that accuse us of treason and sedition, or whether it's this Facebook lawsuit and these types of shenanigans, we're out here fighting for you, right? It's one of the reasons that we will launch Defend Texas, right? DefendTexas.com. You guys have been very generous in your contributions. None of the contributions there go directly to us. They go straight into a trust account for the attorney so that he can cover all of this legal stuff, right? Because they're not slowing down. If you haven't noticed, the attacks on what we are doing are ramping up, which tells you that we are indeed over the target. They have no reason to fight so hard if nothing is really happening. So for those of you out there that have sent in messages like, "Oh, this doesn't seem to be moving forward," let me just point to these things for you to understand that they would not be happening if we were not gaining ground. And granted, some of you may not see that, right? I may or may not have a picture sitting on this computer of our executive director next to the lieutenant governor. I may or may not have that picture. There may or may not be state reps and state senators having conversations behind closed doors about the Texas bill right now, and what's going to happen after the call. There may or may not be a whole bevy of things that we are about to unleash in the cities and the counties and elsewhere for you to do to help advance that may or may not be happening. I'm going to get in trouble. Well, I'm not going to get in trouble, but I am going to get an earful because, I may or may not be teasing some things that are happening. But the point here is, understand that whether you see it happening or not, the reaction from the opposition is the only sign that you need that we are moving forward, that things are happening, and they're happening at a frightening pace. Let me just explain to you, these dark circles are not because I got in a fight in the front yard, right? All of our team is working hard, very, very hard for us to win, because none of us want to lose. We want Texas to be a self-governing independent nation. And look, we need all hands on deck, right? We need everybody. So Paul Roby, this is for you, our field director. He asked me to do this tonight. If you have not volunteered, even if you have before, or maybe think you have, go right now to tnm.me/volunteer and volunteer. But become a volunteer, because the numbers are what matter, right? Helping us get out there and reach more Texans. That is the key. That is the key to our victory. Wow. My lighting just drastically changed. Well, okay. That's fun. I told you, things are changing around here. All right, let me get to some questions. And then I've got a short video I'm going to play for you guys. Along that same vein, by the way, let's see what we got over here. Question-wise. Hey, we got a few. All right. Jesse says, so is the country going to split? With Fed now coming into play, I feel we will no longer be united. That split's been happening for a long time. Jesse, I would direct you to texitnow.org, and you will find out just exactly what you can do about it. We don't have to be, we can all be friends, but we don't have to be under the same government in Washington, D.C., because that's not how it was meant to be in the first place. Okay. Lori says, will that bill/amendment have to pass through the Senate? You're talking about the Leach thing. Yes, all of it just made it through the House, and it'll have to go there. Yeah, another bit of good news here. Okay, so Jim asks, when will we be able to buy gold-backed digital currency from Texas? Good news for you. 2 pieces of legislation have been pushed out of committee in the House, one calling for the digital gold currency, which I know some people are like, oh, that's digital currency. Okay. You have to understand, this is a step in the right direction. You know, one of the pieces of legislation that the TNM championed big time was the establishment of the Texas Gold Depository. Part of the reason for that we loved that legislation so much is there was a provision in there that was tucked in that said that it had to create a system of electronic transaction denominated by deposits of precious metals in the depository. Okay, this is in effect the establishment of a currency, even though it's not a currency, it is sort of a currency, which essentially says you can transact in this digital currency that is backed by gold. And if you want to go exchange it for gold, you can go do that, right? That's what this thing does. This is huge. If for all those people who always ding dong me and ask me questions about what are we going to do for a currency? And I say, well, look, if Texas wants a currency, Texas is very close to being able to do it. The gap, that is one of the shortest gaps that we have to jump. We got like 3 sovereign wealth funds. I mean, I don't have time to go into all of it, but it is one of the shortest gaps we have. This makes that gap even shorter, right? Although it's not paper and although it's digital, right? So for an exchange purpose. And what we get Matt Frazier on here to explain to you guys why it's ultra secure and all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line here is this is one step for Texas to have a way to transact money, business between us, right? We would get the opportunity to use that with a stable currency, with a currency that's backed by something other than, you know, the faith and credit of the United States, right? Now you've got something that is Texas. And so you couple that with our gold depository, it puts us one massive step closer to independence, right? It just makes that transition so much easier. And that's what people don't understand a lot of times. They think that all we work is the Texit bill, right? The referendum itself. But we're always working the things that get us closer, that we're looking at on the other side of that vote, that are going to speed that transition, that are going to make it easier. They're going to put us in a much better position sitting at the negotiating table. I mean, think about it. We vote to withdraw, right? We vote to reassert our status as an independent nation. Is it more helpful, less helpful, or no different if we have a gold depository with gold in it and a digital system for transacting based off of that precious metal? Well, I would say that it would be a lot more helpful. And so that's how we look at a lot of these issues, right? And why some people don't understand. We champion things this side of the Texit vote because those things help us on the other side of the Texit vote, or they help us get the Texit vote, or they help us win the Texit vote, right? It's a game of chess where all pieces are with a lot of different players and with all pieces moving at the same time. But for us, everything is pointing toward independence, even the Texit vote. This is not the Texit movement, the Texas Nationalist Movement. This is the Texas Nationalist Movement. We want Texas to be a nation. We want Texas to be independent. So what we're doing is we're working everything to move Texas toward independence. And if you guys haven't had my speech recently of why Texas is not the goal, Texas is the process, right? Texas is not an act. Texas is a process, but Texas is also not the goal. Texas is the process that gets us to the goal, and that goal is independence. I think it's maybe time we do that day-long seminar or whatever. But anyway, Jim, thank you for your question. Kenneth Godwin says, and this is a good question, and I think this is a good one. We'll be having a conversation about this more in depth, probably not next week, but the week after. I believe I'm going to do a special broadcast for all you guys. We're going to talk about some things, but this is Kenneth's question. He says, if state affairs, talking about the State Affairs Committee, kills the bill, can we pressure Governor Abbott to bring a special session for Texas? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's always on the table. And he's reluctant, obviously, to call a special session. But one thing, just go back to what Dr. Quartrup said, and which is something that we've said, except he said it with a British accent. You have to bring pressure to bear on these government folks, whether it's Governor Abbott or Lieutenant Governor Patrick or legislate, the reps and the senators, to increase that pressure to make a way for this to happen. And so it's not unheard of for Abbott to call a special session with enough public pressure. And that's going to be the key. So just keep that in mind as we continue our discussions. Okay. Outer Space Docs, which is kind of a very cool YouTube name. I don't know, maybe you have a channel. We'll check it out. Are you working on moving people to Texas to vote in favor of secession? I am definitely bullish on that strategy. Look, it's a very similar strategy to what the Free State Movement did in New Hampshire, right? Where they're moving libertarians there to essentially, not take over, but take over, right? And here's the beautiful part about it. We don't have to consciously work to do that. Maybe we do need a program, right? A GTT program, Gone to Texas program. We're recruiting pro-independence folks to come here. But here's the thing. We're not having to do it consciously. It's happening. We're contacted by people almost every single solitary day that moved here from one of those other failing states or one of those states that it left them, that are moving here to Texas explicitly because they believe Texas will become a free, independent, self-governing nation. That they're moving here for that purpose. They think like we do. They want a place where they can preserve freedom and that shares their values. And so they leave those states and they come here. And you saw that during the census. There is a mass in-migration from other states to Texas. And I know some people fear that. But the numbers show and have shown time and time again that those people that are moving here are political, cultural, and economic refugees that think like we do, that vote like we do, that and a large chunk of them want to see Texas become a self-governing independent nation. So, we're trying to communicate with anyone who has moved here because we need them to be a part of this movement. Okay, let's get down to the brass tacks here. I think we got one more we can tackle. Hang on. Let's try something. All right. Yeah, where are we at on time? All right, we're good. Yeah, I love the sentiments. Kim says, remember all the naysayers when we do Texas and don't let any of them hold any type of office. Send them packing. Look, this is why the strategy is the strategy, right? You're going to hear a lot of conversation starting pretty much now where we are encouraging people, and you may have actually heard a little bit of it just a moment ago, where we're encouraging people to do their civic duty. Oh my, and perhaps go to taketexasback.com/run-for-office. Right? Because, game on. I mean, it's there. I will tell you that the legislators show us who they are every session, but it is incumbent upon us to do the work to remove people that are opposed to Texas. And so there's a grand strategy playing out here, but it's incumbent upon all of us to do our part. Everyone has to do their part. So we're going to need all of you to participate and stay plugged into what we're doing, because it's not enough to get the vote. You have to win the vote, and then you have to win the independents. And you can't do that with a bunch of foot draggers and Ramoners that stay in place. That is a fact, Jack. Jacob wants to know, how can people help in rural cities? Hey, we're everywhere, right? I mean, you've probably been to the website, you've seen the latest figures. We're everywhere, and you know what we need is we need volunteers. We need volunteers to help us reach out to others, and we need you to plug in. I don't know what city you're in. But I would look, Jacob, I would encourage you to head over to the local groups page on our website and find out if there's a local group near you. And if not, get plugged in, right? Start by volunteering, helping us grow the movement. Connect with people in your community, but go find a local group. You guys, and I've said this before, I get to see the big picture. Like, everything. And one of the things that always blows me away is when I look at the map of our supporters and where they are. And I realize that some of you out there have declared supporters that probably live doors down from you, and you don't even realize it. You'll hear me say this a lot when I talk about how many people in Texas are Texas supporters. I say this: you walk outside your house, you spin around 3 times, and you throw a rock, and you're liable to hit a Texas supporter in the head, and a second one on with the ricochet, right? That's not a joke. I mean, I've seen the map. I mean, I know all the Texas supporters right here in my neighborhood, right? I mean, they're all right here. I know who they are. You would be surprised what it's like if you just start having those conversations. You'll be amazed at what you find. So that's what you can do, even if it's rural. Nate and I, a few years ago, were on the Take Texas Back tour and stopped in, I think it was Vernon, Texas, home of Jack Teagarden, by the way, for any of you fans of old school music. And we just happened to pull up the map, look at it, and go, okay, let's whip over here to surprise one of our supporters in a town that was so small. We pull up the map, and there were 4 supporters in this town of maybe 200 people that were registered supporters. Probably didn't include their family that supported and everything else, but boom, we surprised. Matter of fact, if you see the picture of Nate that we use a lot, of Nate getting a signature on a clipboard from a guy, that's the guy we stopped to see. That's him. You'd be so surprised. But Jacob, get plugged in. Let's get to work. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Oh, by the way, I just saw that Casey Littlejohn is in chat, and I got to tell you, kudos to Casey Littlejohn, who was the process server that served Jeff Leach. And I think he's taking exception. We're referring to it as the Leach Amendment, but I think he would prefer if we started referring to it as the anti-Littlejohn Amendment. And which the funny part about this is he is not deterred. I saw a comment that he made on Twitter earlier who basically said, okay, so, well, I can't serve him on the floor or in committee, but, they basically said that they got to come out of their hidey hole sometime. They got to walk down the corridor sometime. So tough cookie, right? I mean, he's not going to be stopped. So anyway, kudos to you, Mr. Littlejohn. You are the man, and we do appreciate you. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I have been asked many times, and some of you probably have seen this, about this is a mindset thing, right? So if you were here for some hard Texas facts, you got those. But now we're going to talk a little bit about mindset, and this is how we're going to wrap up the broadcast tonight. This will be my closing thing. So I'll do my close. I'm going to play it, but I'm going to explain to you what it is. So many of you have heard, some of you have heard me tell my story that when I was 19 years old, I met a man who became my mentor. Technically, I met him when I was a senior in high school because he came and spoke to my government economics class. But I got to know him officially when I was 19 years old. His name is David Carr. He lives in White Oak. He's actually on the school board there at White Oak ISD, my old high school. And I talk a good bit about the impact that David had on my life. Right. I was pretty doggone immature, even at 19. I was, I was terribly socially not well adjusted because I was way too interested in learning and books and and all these things. And so the bottom line is that my parents, they taught me all kinds of things, but you always meet people in your life that teach you new things, right? You should always be learning. And David was one of those people. He came to me at a very critical time in my life. And, he taught me a lot of cool things. He taught me, the whole idea of mental toughness, right? Of just never saying quit or saying no. You just keep going and being mentally tough. As a matter of fact, he wound up writing a book called Winning Through Mental Toughness eventually. But whatever was in that book, I had already learned firsthand. But one of the guys that he introduced me to some speeches. He's always listening to these speakers. And so he introduced me to that. And so people ask me a lot of times, why is it that you have been able to put up with all this crap, right? So contrary to, some of the ridiculous people out there who swear up and down, I do this for money. I don't get paid. I've made almost nothing off of the royalties for my book. There's tons of copies out there, but you don't make a lot. You do those things. But people say, why do you do it? That's because I made a promise, August 24th, 1996. And I want to win. You guys will hear me say this all the time that I want to win. So David introduced me to speeches from a guy back then. Think about it, that was 30 years ago almost. And the guy whose speeches he introduced me to still kicking around. So people have asked, and it's been a lot lately, about how in the world are you able to do this and put up with all this crap all the time and not lose your mind? You don't get paid. You get a bunch of crap. You got to do a bunch of work. You have to listen to people wah. You have to deal with people, that do X, Y, and Z, but also get to hang around winners. And that's also nice. So as I wrap this up, I'm going to close out like I do every time. Then I'm going to end with this video. And look, if you've got an extra, couple of minutes, like 3 minutes long, please hang around and watch it, especially if you want to understand sort of that mindset that it takes. Even Dr. Quartrip talked about in these other independence movements is they just couldn't countenance failure, right? They just can't countenance it. It was always pushing forward because they believed it so much. And that's where I'm at. I want Texas to be a self-governing independent nation. And I made a promise. I made a promise to myself and to others on August 24th, 1996, that I would do everything I could to see it happen. And while this speech is in a business vein, I think those of you that have ears to hear will be able to translate. So with that, I am going to get back to work, and I'm going to leave you with the words that I leave you with every single solitary week. They're not my words. They're the words of Sam Houston. By the way, I almost forgot. I'm going to be in Decatur tomorrow night speaking to Wise County conservatives. If you're anywhere in the area, go look it up on the website. Join us. Would love to see you. Now, not my words, but the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.
My last principle: almost everybody does almost everything you need to do to win. Almost everybody gets there. Almost everybody's over the hump. Almost everybody has it going. Almost is a way of life to almost everybody, but the winners, they do it. What do? They do whatever it takes to get the job done. They do it and do it and do it and do it until the job gets done. We need leaders who can do it. If you want to become somebody, do it. If you want to become financially independent, do it. I hear too much talk around A.O. Williams. You need to do it and then talk. I hear people say, Art, you can count on me. Great. Just do it. Art, I'm going to be a sales leader in 30 days. Wonderful. Just do it. Art, our Life Underwriters Association is going to run all you termites out of business. Super duper. Just do it. Boy, Art, if I could just have one good month, I know I could make it big. Great. Just do it. Art, if I could just pay off this debt, I could really go. We'll do it. Art, if I could just sell my house, do it. But houses ain't selling. Do it anyway. Art, I'm not making any money. What can I do? You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it and do it and do it. Art, when I get to be a vice president, can I quit doing it? Nope. Art, I guarantee you I'm going to win this contest. Great. Just do it. Art, I'm over the hump now. Watch my smoke. Wonderful. Just do it. Art, I want to make it so bad I can taste it what I do. You just do it. Art, I'm hurting. I don't know if I can keep on keeping on what I do. You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it and do it and do it. Art, all my life I wanted to be somebody important. We'll do it then. Art, I'm going to recruit 20 people this month. Wonderful. Just do it. Art, I'm going to save money so I don't ever have to go through this again. Great. Just do it. I'm hurting, Art. I'm really hurting what I do. You just do it. Art, I don't feel like I've had enough training what I do. You just do it. Art, my manager don't give me enough help what I do. You just do it. Art, I want every award at my former company. You don't mean somebody like me has got to start off down there and do it, do you? Yep, you really got to do it. Art, what's the primary difference between winners and losers? The winners do it. They do it and do it and do it and do it until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to have achieved something unique and how glad they are that they didn't quit like everybody else and how wonderful it is to finally be somebody they're proud of. Thank you. Wow.